Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here, well, first of all, everyone should recognize our guest. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, we have Mandy back on for the second time. I mean, it's been just a little bit over a year since we've last had her on. And, as we can tell, she's getting ready for a show right now. And, she's just going to give us an update on what she's been up to. And, just talk all things health and fitness like always. But again, Mandy, thank you so much for coming back on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, I was going to ask you what the weather's like, but we already talked about before we started recording. It's been a year since we last had you on, and what have you been up to since then?
Yeah, so I think it was around, I'm trying to think when I was even on last.
I think it was early February of last year, so like around the same time almost, yeah.
Yeah, so at that point, I had not planned to do a show. I was taking a year off to get ready for my pro debut. Um, However, and I think it was like April of last year, I decided, or well, someone reached out locally in Alabama. They were having a small NPC show and they asked for me to do guest posing. So I was like, well, I need to do a mini cut for that. So at that time, my coach was still Autumn. And I talked to Autumn and we got started on the mini cut. And I was just dropping like 4 weeks was, I mean, it just like incredible progress. So I was like, maybe I should just do a show. And so I kind of hit it. I didn't tell anybody. I just kept saying, I'm prepping for this guest posing. And so then in June, I think, is when I fully decided, okay, I'm just going to do the Atlanta Pro because it's 3 hours from here. I can drive, super easy. So I ended up doing an 8 week total prep for my pro debut. Didn't place the best. I think there was 27 girls, and I probably got like 16th if you look at the lineup. So I was one of the last ones, but I was in third call out, so I wasn't in last call outs. But I really like the atmosphere of the pro show was just incredible, and so it was just on a whim. But since then, after July, I have the rest of the year I took off. I ended up hiring Luke Miller as my coach in October. He's with No Switch Fitness and like absolutely the best coach ever. Like I can't even put into words how incredible his coaching is. The changes that I saw, even just starting with him in October to December, I saw incredible changes. And then I've been with him still, and what we're in February. So we started prep on January 1st for Pittsburgh, which will be May 6th.
Did you at least allow yourself to have some food during Christmas and Thanksgiving and all those holidays?
Sort of. After my pro show, it was really cool. It was like this switch just went off. Like I didn't need that stuff. Like food is fuel, and in order for me to grow, I need to follow my plan. And so, like before, I was really bad after shows. I would binge eat. I would, sneak stuff. I would get up in the middle of the night so nobody saw me. Like it was bad. So I haven't had any of that. And so even like for Thanksgiving, I was like, I talked to Luke and he's like, of course you can have Thanksgiving. You're in off season. And so I did my meals throughout the day. And then Thanksgiving dinner comes around and I'm like, I just kind of filled my plate with like a lot of protein and then just did like some little servings and had like like I didn't really want it. It was weird. It's like something just clicked. But I mean, we had some good date nights and I was able to have some, enjoy time with my husband and my kids. And I really can't say that I had like anything crazy to eat or fun to eat because I really followed my off season plan too.
Do you think your kids like the off-season mom better than the prep mom?
Yes, they do. So we're in a little town and we now have a Dunkin' Donuts and
Ooh.
it came in, I think it was November. And so I asked Luke, I was like, hey, Dunkin's opening. They're doing this opening thing. My kids want to go. Can I have a donut? And he's like, yes, you can have a donut. And so they were like, Mom, you're eating a donut? And I was like, yeah, I'm in off season. So they definitely like it better when I'm not in prep.
And I mean, as you've gotten into this prep yourself, how is this last prep really differentiated from the other preps that you've done?
Um, One thing that I've noticed is my cardio is slim compared to, so I was probably doing 2 hours of cardio in my last prep. And I'm just now, like just as of yesterday, up to 50 minutes total. So that's 11 weeks out, and he's literally only adding like 10 minutes every here and there. So my food, I was pretty low. Like when I say low, 1,300 calories my last preps, and I'm just now around like 1750 on training days and 1550 on rest days. So like my food's still pretty high. We in off season we ended up getting me up to almost 4,000 calories. So we got to start really high, which really helps in prep. And I stayed very lean. Like my body fat and when I started prep was 12.9%. So somehow I stayed pretty lean, even not doing cardio in off season.
It was 4,000 calories. I mean, I had about that much in cupcakes during the Super Bowl weekend, so yeah, I went a little too hard during that Super Bowl party. So one cupcake turns into four, and then next thing you know, you're just like, we'll see what happens, with this. But hey, I skated it off. Hopefully, a lot of it. But what is one body part that you think that you've improved on the most since we last had you on a year ago?
Shoulders, um, and quads, but mostly shoulders. The way I realized that the way that I was training shoulders this entire, almost 4 years I've been bodybuilding, I wasn't training them correctly. Luke pointed out, like, so the first few weeks of training with him or of, working with him, I would have to send him every training video and he would have to critique them. And so he figured out like the best form for me. And it's so crazy. It's like the smallest detail, but the way that I was training was incorrect. And I have seen so much growth in the past 4 months compared to the past 3.5 years, just doing it the right way. So, and quads were are still a weak point, and I know that has to. We've talked about that. Long legs, long limbs. We're tall. It is hard to grow stumps for legs when they're 6 foot long. But they have grown. I've got more of a sweep. The funny thing is, I have a lot of hip flexor issues that we've been working around, which we've gotten where they don't bother me anymore because I had to change my training. But I don't have any squatting patterns, any I don't do any squats, any hack squats, anything for leg day that's like backloading or heavy loading. It's all just like split squats and leg extensions and some leg press. Like it's weird that I'm still growing and not doing the things that most bodybuilders do.
Which that should be the thing for tall people. We shouldn't have to squat because that should just be. I mean, that's just not. It's not fun. It's especially. I mean, there's a guy in my gym who's 6'7", and just seeing him squat, I'm just like, dude, like why? And first of all, he's one of those genetic freaks where he does have really nice legs. So I'm just like, I've went up to him a dozen times at least now and been like, what are you doing? Like honestly, like what are you doing now? Because like I'm 6'3", and you can see that like I'm stumbling. Even walking towards you, basically like that. I'm having a hard time balancing myself up there, but. Yep, it's just the struggle that, us tall people, go through. But did you have to change your nutrition up at all with this new coach, or has things mainly stayed the same?
Um, so with Autumn, I had a meal plan with Autumn, and she was probably gonna kill me if she hears me, but no, not really. I had a meal plan with Autumn, but I basically took her plan and used the macros from it, and so I would do more macro based. And I'm doing so much better with Luke. Like I have literally followed his plan to a T, and it helps that I mean my meals are normal: cream of rice, chicken and potatoes, chicken and vegetables, steak and potato. My only meats are really chicken and steak, and we just added shrimp this week. So most of it it was a lot of protein powder, and I was getting really hungry because protein powder doesn't fill you up as much as like eating your meat, your protein. So he switched out like my protein powder to shrimp or to chicken.
I've never had shrimp in my life, and I have no desire to ever eat shrimp because I learned the hard way. Well, luckily it wasn't for me myself. That how sometimes shrimp leave a little something extra inside of them that you sometimes might have to taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that, and then I saw my dad eating it one time, and I was like, "Oh, what's that stuff right there?" And then he told me what it was, and I was like, why?" So now, if anyone ever tells me, "Hey, you want to have shrimp?" I will say, I'd rather just go into my own toilet and dig something out then, and that might be a little bit more successful for me there. But hey, more power to you for eating shrimp because after I found that out, I was like, how people still eat that? It must just be like crack cocaine then for anyone to still ever want to eat it then. But yep. That's my shrimp story. I haven't told it on the podcast yet, and I saved it for the first guest that I had that talks about having their shrimp. But I mean, you talked about how your cardio is a little bit less and less now. Do you find that that's easier now to sort of, or do you find that you might maybe you're struggling with that mentally, that you're not doing as much cardio as you were before? Because some people, they get so stuck in the mindset of like, this is how much cardio I have to do, that then when a change comes around, they don't think that maybe they're not going to get the same results that they got before.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like, in a way, I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, oh, yay, I only have to do 30 minutes fasted and 20 minutes post workout. Because basically, he's like, you have 50 minutes, but you can do them however you want to. There's no set. And then, of course, I have a step goal too. So, like, a lot of times, if I know I'm not going to hit my step goal by just moving around, I'll just walk post workout like at 3 miles per hour, nothing crazy, just to get steps in. So, I don't really consider that cardio. I consider that steps. But yeah, so I was looking actually just 2 nights ago, I was looking back through because I wear my Apple Watch and I used to track everything on my Fitness Pal. And I was looking back to like my last prep and how I was so lean so early, but I had to hold it for so long. And so I'm realizing now, like, you don't have to be lean 10 weeks, that lean 10 weeks out. Like, where I'm at is in a good place and I still have, 11 weeks to go. So I kind of get in my head about it, but then I'm like, just trust him. He knows what he's doing, and it is our first time working together. So again, I always think, like, should I be doing more? Does he really know that's what I should be doing? But again, like, I've seen results from him, so I know that I feel like we're in a good place.
Last year was sort of such a defining year for bodybuilding when it came to, I mean, there's a lot of deaths that happened in the sport and a lot of that stuff, and I was shocked about it. Like, I knew that, like, the extremes that a lot of people go to, but I mean, I think this was like a watershed year when it comes to like the general public, I think, being more informed about, like, just how intense of a sport this can be, especially knowing that, like, yeah, just the extremes that a lot of people go to when it comes to just the dieting, the supplements, the working out. What has been your reaction to sort of just this? It seems to be like, a lot of people are more aware of, some of the extremes that people go to. And what was your reaction just like to this year in general? Because it seems like, I mean, bodybuilding's always been an extreme sport, but it just seems like now there's more knowledge about it being so extreme.
That was actually one reason I switched coaches, because I wanted a coach who was more knowledgeable in like the science behind the body and the female hormones. Because you know when I prepped for the pro debut in July, because I did it so quickly and PEDs were involved, I literally passed out one more. Like, my everything just like shut down, and I was like, "What happened?" I got blood work done, and they were awful. I mean, like, scary, scary, scary numbers. So I could have easily been one of those people too if I would have let it go. And so I wanted a coach who knew what blood work meant, who knew what everything on there meant, who made me get it done. Someone who didn't push drugs or, say that you got to take this to be able to compete where you're at. Like, that's one thing about Luke is if there's drugs and any kind of PEDs involved, it is minimal, like the least amount I've ever taken. So that is really cool to see that even though I'm on this very minimal dose, like, I can still see as bigger results than I was when I was taking 4 or 5 different things, which were just depleting my body and my energy. But another thing is, back to the cardio, like, I think bodybuilders overdo it, and that's what happens is they're rushing the process, and like, I don't want to get to that scenario. So I'm hoping that the way that we're doing things in more of a slow progression, just slow progress to get to our end point, it's a healthier way of doing it. And every time we know our own bodies, we know if we feel down or if we have energy that day, we know what we feel like. And so every time I have a day where the way Luke explains it, he's like, your legs feel like they're 8 feet behind you. And I say my feet feel like bricks. So we say them different ways, but we know what each other means. And he says, okay, today pull cardio, save it for your training. So he's really good. And that's another thing is like sending messages day of and having a coach respond to you. We need that as bodybuilders because there's some things we can make a call on, but then we get in our head and we're like, ooh, should I do that or should I just get through it and push myself harder? And I even have said that to him. I was like, I can push through. And he's like, no, there's no reason to. You're 11 weeks out. So I just think there's some extremes in bodybuilding, and people are definitely taking it there.
Yeah, I've done whole podcasts on that where literally, yeah, like, and what am I mean, I'm going to announce this on the podcast because it's going to happen in like a month. I'm getting a guy on who's like a specialist. He's a doctor, so he's a specialist in like these drugs and what they do to certain types of people and how they impact them, which is a discussion that I've always wanted to have. I've always wanted to have it with a doctor because those are the guys that like know exactly like this is what happens to the body when you do this, or this is what happens when you do that. So I'm really excited about that, and that's I've been trying to get him on for forever, and now his schedule finally opened up, and so I'm really excited about that. So I think that'll be a really cool thing too. But yeah, I love that a lot more people are being a lot more honest now too about all that type of stuff. Where for me it was like I could care less what goes on behind closed doors. But the only thing that pisses me off are the people that say like, oh, you can get a body just like this, and it's like we can see gills in your neck basically and stuff like that from stuff, especially the guys too. Well, I think the guys are a little bit more admit about it, but like especially like some of the bodybuilder women who you're just like, okay, come on now, like let's be honest. But so I'm glad that there's that though too. But when it comes to this, we talked about sleep last time, but I think the world was in a little bit more of a hectic place than the last time that we had you on. Has sleep been a little bit easier for you now that you've maybe switched up coaching, or is it still just a struggle for you?
Actually, it's been a lot better. When I was in past preps, I had this mentality of I needed to be up at 4 a.m. before everybody else got their stuff done. Like I needed to be the first to get all my cardio in, and I needed to be the first. Like that was just like this mentality. Like if I don't do it now, then I'm not the best. And so now I'm like, sleep is so much more important than getting up at 4 a.m. to do cardio when I can do it when I get up. So it is. My sleep is much better. I'm in bed by 9:30 every night and up around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Some mornings I get my fasted cardio in after I take the kids to school, and then some days I can't, and I just do it later during the day. So I've really just learned to that yes, bodybuilding is a priority for me, but sleep is a bigger priority, and making sure my kids, my family is taken care of, my job is taken care of. So I really learned to kind of step back just a little bit and not like forcefully put bodybuilding before everything.
Do you tend to take more time off of work as you get closer to your show? Because like I don't care what kind of job you had. I had a cop on like a month ago, and I told him I was like, I'm not giving you a gun when you're like a couple of weeks out of a show. But like, how do you deal with that as you get closer? Do you take more time off, or you just inform your employer, just be like, hey, my mind's gonna be shot basically for the next few weeks or so?
Yeah, I think they've kind of gotten used to that. I usually work up until the day we fly out. So I don't take because I have to take time off to get there and back. So I don't take any additional time off.
They just say basically, oh, just let her like stand in the corner and just like stare at a wall or something like that. Let her. Yeah.
And I work from home full time, so that's
Oh, okay, that's even better. Yeah, that's it. So how have you adjusted that? Because like my little brother, I have to go into work still. Like I have to go into a warehouse. He gets to work from home. I see him because I work 11 to 7 and he works the 9 to 5. So for about 2 hours, if I go to shower before work or something like that, he's watching movies while he's working. So I just want to strangle him and just be like, "You lucky sob, you don't know how good you." How have you adjusted to the working from home thing? Because it seems so much easier for people like me who are in warehouse. We're like, "Oh, those lucky sobs," but I've learned from talking to people that it is harder than it looks.
yeah. So the funny thing, the company I've been with since 2006. So I don't know what is that like 15 years. I lived in Georgia, and when I moved to Alabama, they let me go remote full time. So I've been remote full time for 5 years. Now, however, when COVID happened, they did the entire company. So and now everyone is remote. They just opened up like 6 months ago. They opened up a small portion of the building for those that wanted to come in, but most of our company is remote. So I've had no issue. Like I'm used to it. Without being able to work from home, I would not be a bodybuilder because I have to. We don't have school buses here, so I have to take my kids to school. I have to pick my kids up from school. I take my lunch break to go to the gym. Like, and of course we have sports and all that. So like it is nonstop.
Where do you live? Green Acres? They don't have school buses for the kids? Jeez.
I know we have no school buses. I don't understand it. There are school buses. I've seen them, but they don't do like pick up and drop off.
Is it small schools, or is it just small schools where you're at, or is it just for some reason they just decide, hey, we don't have school buses?
We just have one public school.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, for me, yeah, that damn school bus almost wakes me up. I mean, I still have dreams to this day that I'm late for the school bus, and then I'll wake up and be like, Ryan, you're 27 years old. You're not gonna be using a school bus, hopefully, ever again. I don't know what the future holds for me, but yeah. So that's okay. That's insane too. So literally, what do you have like a neighbor take them then? Like if you're ever like sick or something like that, or how do you you guys do your neighbors have like a full system in place for all any of that?
No, but I'm always the one who takes them, which we leave at 7 in the morning, and then they're dropped off by around like 7:35. But we have right next behind me is a school teacher who's at the school, and her little boy is my son's best friend. So there's like 3 days a week she'll let them come to her classroom after school and just bring them home with her. So that's really helpful.
35-minute drive to get to the school?
No, you just have to sit in the line for a little
Oh,
bit.
okay. I was gonna say, I was like, what is this? All doesn't make any yeah, because like
No,
literally, yeah,
it
I
only
lit.
takes like 6 minutes to get to the
Okay,
school.
good. Yeah, that was like for me too as well. Because I was like, okay, if it's like that, so yeah, okay. I was just thinking, I was like 35 minutes and they don't have school buses. I was like, does she literally have like plumbing or sanitation in that house then too or something? Or what's going on over there? But no, that's yeah, that hey, that is great. But I see on your Instagram a lot that you're doing a lot of posing and stuff. Have you mixed things up from your last year now with this new coach?
Yes. So he doesn't do posing, but I have my first posing session with Kenny.
I
Well,
saw
it's
that.
I know I'm so excited on the 28th. So what's that like? Not next week, but the next. I'm really excited. So I did one for February, March, and April. I'll just have one each month. Um, of course, I learned like my posing that I do now mostly came from Autumn because Autumn is a posing coach too. But I have been working on like making it my own and kind of finding my own best angles. So every day in the gym, like when I like if I need to rest between a set, I pose. And then I go back to my set and then I pose. And then at the end of my training, I make sure to do 2 rounds of posing. So I'm trying to make it because posing can make you or break you on that stage. And I have a lot of like some rotational issues that Luke's been helping me out with, which has been great because he noticed it. My first check-in pictures, he was like, something with your left side doesn't look like your right side. So he started incorporating like the PVC pipe where you turn. So we've been doing that, and I have so much more rotation now. And then like today's a rest day, but I do core and mobility work on my rest day. So when we get done, that's what I'll be doing. And so on my core work, in the past, I always just did like, crunches or, your normal ab stuff. And I don't do that with him. So like it's literally like side planks. I hold them for a minute each 3 times. And then you like I don't really know what they're called, but the hyper machine, like the back machine where you
Yep.
can lean over. Okay, well you sit on it the opposite way and hold yourself up and just just keep your stomach. And so I think we started at like 30 seconds and I'm at a minute now 3 times. And it's hard. But I didn't realize those two movements are what create that the little gill looking things
The
on the side.
obliques, yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I've never had that, and I'm already starting to see it just a tad, like, shine through, and I'm like, "Oh, I might have those on stage this year." So
See, that's what weird because for me, like I put on like my 10 to 15 pounds of winter weight where I don't have a six pack anymore. I don't really have a pack, but like I still have the obliques because that's just genetic for me. Like I still like I could probably be like 300 pounds and I'd still have the obliques. It's just my belly would just be hanging out, absolutely everywhere. So, that's just yeah, that's just the genetics for me. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that. But I mean, yeah, it's just so funny how just one person can really change things up. And I've had that story so many times on this podcast. So just getting a new coach and just all of a sudden just everything just seems to change up. But now the most important question being that you were from Georgia and now you're in Alabama, who did you root for in the national championship game?
Alabama. I mean, I had to, my
Mhm.
husband. I mean, I really wasn't rooting for either, but
Which I'm so because sports betting is not legal in Minnesota, they're thinking about passing it soon. But I was gonna go drive down to Iowa because I'm about an hour and 10 minutes away from the Iowa border, and there's a casino literally right on the border where like Minnesota people can go and place like bets and do sports betting. So I was gonna go put a decent amount of money on Alabama, but I stopped as soon as I was getting into my car because I was like, should I really do this? Glad that I didn't do it because I'd be out a significant amount of money. So hey, you live and you learn, everyone. So hey, I benefit from that as well. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, if sports betting comes here, I might have to quit my job then because I have some really hot tips then that maybe I'll have to get in on and see what happens. Don't judge me from my loss in the national championship game because it wasn't even a loss really, to begin with. But as you're getting closer and closer to the show, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time, but what are some of the reactions that you're getting now and just in general public as you're getting leaner and leaner for the show?
I don't like to go out in public. It's so funny, like, I really the only place I go is the school drop off line, which I'm in my car, and to the gym. And so I do Walmart pickup or Publix pickup for groceries. But one day, it was a couple of weeks ago, I told the kids, I was like, we're just going to go in the grocery store. We're going to go in Walmart today. And so we did. And oh my, it was exactly as I'd imagined. So I was looking at like something in the kids' clothes section for my little boy. And one of the workers, he stopped me. He said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And I looked over and I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've just never seen anyone look like you. You're the prettiest lady I've ever seen." So that was a really nice compliment because he wasn't complimenting my muscles, which is normally what it is. So then I get over to the groceries and there's a little guy on the little wheelchair and he stops me and he was like, "I know you from the wreck. Your muscles have gotten really strong." And so, and then there was another old man. And that's my daughter even said, "Why do all these old men know who you are?" And so it's everybody knows that Mandy's the bodybuilder because I'm the only one here in Troy. So it does feel like you're a little famous when you go out because everybody stops to ask you questions. But that's a lot of the reason. We just got a TJ Maxx and a Ross, and so we've been going there a little more often. But you can kind of hide more in there than you can like Walmart.
See, you talk about how you couldn't live up here in the cold, but look at what I'm wearing. This is what I wear basically from November till April, basically. So hey, it's perfect camouflage. Although some guests that I've had on here, they could wear 10 different jackets and they'd still, it would still show that they work out. But yeah, and I find that interesting too. So yeah, you just gotta hunker down. What are the reactions that you get at? Oh no, that's right. You work from home. I totally see.
Mhm.
It blew my mind again because I was gonna be like, "What's the reactions that you guys?" But no, that's a whole different thing. But I mean, as the show gets closer and closer, do you have like a plan ahead of time of like how you're going to change things up, or is it sort of you just go week by week and then he tells you like, oh, this week we're going to do things different this way, or is there like a generalized plan of like exactly when things are going to be changed up?
No, it's definitely week by week. So we were doing check-ins every Thursday, and then now my check-ins are basically just when he says for me to check in. So I just had one on Wednesday. Yeah, I just had one on Wednesday. No, what's today? Saturday. I just had one on Thursday, and he said, "Okay, I need you to check in again on Monday," and then he'll probably have me do like it's usually about every 3 days. I'm checking in now. That was a little bit different this week because in my fasted pictures, I told him I was like, I really don't like the way these look. I just feel shrimpy. Like he's like, go ahead and go get your workout, like get a meal in, get your workout in, and at the gym, I want you to take posing pictures. And I'm like, wait, so we don't really have a posing room at our gym, and we literally only have about three female people at the gym, so they're all men. And so I was like, I cannot get, but I did it. I just went. I found a little corner where nobody could see me, and I told the guy that works there, I was like, tell nobody to come over here. And so I took pictures after my workout, and he was very pleased. And he was like, "This is even better because now we know when you have one meal and fluids in you, you are even more, have more of a pump. You look fuller." And so, but yeah, it's week by week, and usually it's just very subtle changes. Like this week, he pulled the bagel. I was having a bagel pre-workout, but one thing I was noticing is bagels don't really fill me up. They are absolutely delicious, but they don't really satisfy your hunger. You know what I mean? You just want more. Um, so he changed it to cream of rice, which cream of rice is a lot more filling for me, and so which is one of my favorite meals. But that was like one of the only changes he made this week, besides the shrimp. He added shrimp instead of egg whites because egg whites were bloating me.
Had a cinnamon bagel in January where they cut it open and they put the cream inside of the bagel that was cinnamon then too. Yeah, it's the best. It's one of the best things I've ever had in my entire life. I ended up getting a dozen of them and brought them home to my parents, and that those things lasted like 4 or 5 days before they were all gone. But yeah, that was just absolutely insane. But do you think that being in a gym where it's a lot of guys, do you think that that motivates you even more, like when you're working out and stuff, just because you have that extra added drive, or do you think that it's a what's your opinion on that? Because I find some people it does motivate them even more just because of they just want to just not show off, but they just want to show that like, hey, I belong here too. But how do you deal with that?
Some days, like I walk into the gym and there's 10 guys in there working out and they're hooping and hollering and whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is, I need there to be people here today. And then some days I walk in and there's not a single person in there but me. And I'm like, oh, this will be a nice workout. But I am such a headphones on, don't talk, like, let me do my workout, don't talk to me. And they all know that. And if I come to a machine that they're on, they will literally just drop that. It's yours. You have it. You're good. Like they know that I'm, because most of them aren't. as serious. They're in there talking. It's their chit chat time. Yeah, they get a pump, but they're not like working. You know what I mean? So like they know that if I need a machine, I mean, I'll wait for it, and I'd ask nicely. I'm like, "Hey, get your sets in, and then I want to use it." But yeah, I don't feel more motivated. But I have days where I hope there's nobody there, and I have days where I hope it's a gym full of people. You know.
I will say the most annoyed I've ever been is those idiots when you're doing when you start doing a set and you're in your first set of like 5 and they come up and they go, "How many more sets you have?" And I was like, "Oh, I got 4 after this." And then they stand there and watch you do the rest
Oh
of them and you're just like it happened to me a couple times in college where I just turned around after like the third one. I was like, "Can I help you? Like, is there what's going on here?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm just waiting for you to finish." And I was like, "I can come up to you and tell you when I'm done. Like, you don't have to stand." And they were like 5 feet away from me too. Like, it's like, dude, what the hell? I could tell that they probably weren't like they weren't like they hadn't been there for long, so they didn't really know proper gym etiquette of like, yeah, don't just stare at people. But yeah, so that was that for me. Yeah, when you talked about like people just come up to the machines and just getting off them, hey, that's the way. That's honestly the way that I wish it was, right there, right then and there. But I mean, I asked you this last time, and if the answers change, we'll see. But if there's one thing that you could change about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Last time I said the judging criteria. I do remember that question. So, and by that I mean, I want to. When I won my pro card, I won it in physique and figure, and and I'm grateful for that. Like, yes, that's awesome. But how can a figure winner be a physique winner? How can they be the same? Like, where's the criteria? And I'm sure it's because I just had the best physique that day. But my thing, and that's just one scenario. But I don't know that I would change my answer much there. It would, I guess now it's figure is so big. Like these figure pro winners are really muscular. And I thought, like, you look at the criteria, and yes, they're meeting the criteria, but they're like almost to the physique, criteria. So, like, for me, I want to stay feminine. Like, yes, I love muscles. I think they're pretty. Like, I want to be muscular, but I don't want to be huge. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. And so, like, I don't want to see figure continue to go this way because I mean, I'm just not gonna. I can't grow that. I'm not going to grow that much.
Oh, and I've seen that too, where it's like, yeah, if I mean, some of the figure competitors now, like 10 years ago, they might actually be in the bodybuilding category. I mean, it's that's just to show, like how much it really has, grown on it too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the future is going to look like because it seems like this last year they sort of toned it down a little bit, but then it seems like this year it might be going back up again. So who knows where it's going to be? What vibes have you been getting so far for this year of what they might want as opposed to years prior?
Um, I don't know. It's like a little misleading because like Sid isn't a big muscular. Like she's still very feminine. Her muscles are like she doesn't have striations. She's full, but she's lean. I don't know how to explain it. Like she's got the package. That's perfect. But then Jess is just like incredibly big for a figure, like gorgeous physique. Like I don't think I could ever grow to that size. And I think she's like in her 40s. Like it's incredible what she's done. But I just don't like that. Like, how do you put those two beside each other and say this is what I'm going for? Because they're not the same. So it's hard to say which way. I guess it depends on the judge that day. But
Oh yeah, and it's yeah, like we talked about, with the judging too. But you mentioned that your shoulders are one thing that really took off this last year. How have you been training shoulders differently? Because for women, that's the number one body part that I hear of all the time that they want to grow, and a lot of them struggle with it.
yeah, so like I think I was overtraining shoulders before. So it's like as many reps and, as many sets, like an hour workout of just shoulders. And now he's got it. So I have my training is set up shoulders, arms, pull, legs off, and then push, pull, legs off. So 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. So with my shoulder days or my push days, it's only about three workouts, 3 sets, or three workouts with 2 or 3 sets of just shoulders. Like it's not overdoing them. So I'm really only like it's really just a blood flow, but it's the way like So for like the cable lateral raises, I always thought your arms needed to come straight out here. And it's not. It's like to keep tension, it's like forward. And he like corrects me on those things. And dumbbell shoulder press, I was always only able to get like 30, 40 pounds with dumbbells. And I finally got 55 last week for 8, which is not, my goal is 60, but it's hard to get them up. Once I have them up, so I always have to call one of those guys at the gym to come help me get them up. And I hate doing that. But the way I was always doing them, like where you sit really straight up and you're actually supposed to be tilted back just a little bit. And like these just little things that I didn't realize that I was doing wrong this whole entire time.
Those are the things that drive me crazy. Like when I learn stuff that I've been doing for years is like not the right way, and I'm just like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, what's going on here? So I can't. There've been even times like with editing this podcast where one guy even like messaged me. He's like, you do realize there's an easier way to do all this stuff, and I was like, wait, you just saved me like 5 hours a week basically. But yeah, it's fascinating when you finally found out that like, oh yeah, there's other ways to do this, and it targets things more effectively. So yeah, I mean it's just a process of never ending, discovery when it comes to bodybuilding, itself. But when we do have you on a year from now, where would you like to be at in your, bodybuilding journey? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved this coming year?
So for this year, I'm going to do Pittsburgh. A possibility is New York Pro 2 weeks after that. I'm going to do Atlanta in July. And then I think the next one is either Chicago or Tampa. So my goal is to do 4 pro shows this year. And my goal right there is to see where I line up. Like, can I get top 10? Can I get top 5? Like, where am I going to get placed with these other pros? Um, Obviously, the ultimate goal is to get on the Olympia stage. But this year, I feel like I just need to see where I line up. And then next year, take it to, okay, let's try to get points and let's see how many we can get. I said I would be done with bodybuilding at 40, and I will be 36 this year. So I have about 4 years to figure out, if I'm even capable of getting to that point. And that's kind of what I'm using this year for, is like just to put in, like, this has been the best prep I've had. This has been already it's not even finished, and been the best physique I've had. So I really think that I could be competitive if I can just make sure I nail my posing. You know, I've got short hair this year, so this is going to be new. We're going to rock it. We're not doing the long hair. We're rocking the short hair, and I don't know of anybody else who's got it. So hopefully that's the little standout feature.
Honestly, that was going to be my next question, was going to be, so with the short hair, do you find that it's made maybe things a little bit easier? Because with long hair, I don't know if I could work out. Just with all of the hair getting in the way and stuff like that. Has that made at least other things other than just the short hair? Has that made things easier for you just in your overall fitness life?
Yeah, not as far as working out, because I always just threw it up in a messy bun. But I will say it saves about an hour of blow drying my hair, because I had really, really thick hair. And so, I mean, it was, I don't know why. Like, I did the shave side before I cut it, because my husband was like, let's just shave your head. And so he did it. And so I was like, and then I loved it. And then I was like, he texted me one day and he was like, if you want to cut your hair again, you can. He was like, just leave it blonde. And I was like, are you sure? Because I mean, it was like here. And he was like, yeah. And so he comes into the salon that day to look, and it was still like wet, like a dog. And she had just cut it. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's short. I was like, don't look at it right now. And so then when it was finished, he was like, okay, yeah, I like it. So
That might be one of the first times on the podcast that we've had a husband just say to his wife, "Hey, let's just shave a part of your head. Let's just do it. Let's just see what happens." But hey, that's awesome. And yeah, it's a look that a lot of people have been doing, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, taken off. But I mean, like you mentioned that 40 was a year that you think that you'd be done with bodybuilding. Was there any reason why you picked 40, or was it just one of those things where since you started a few years back, you're just like, oh, 40, I'll probably be done with this? How did that come to be?
yeah, mostly so that I can have more of, and this sounds terrible, because but if you're a bodybuilder, you'll know where I'm coming from. Have more of a life. I can't be locked up in this forever. My kids are still young. We want to go to Disney, and I can't go to Disney. I mean, I can't. Like, how I can, but it's just not, and it would not be enjoyable for me. So there's just things like, I want to go on like a 5-year anniversary trip with my husband, and I want to be able to enjoy it without being in prep and things like that. So he asked me last year, he was like, "So how long are you doing this?" And I said, "I'll probably be done around 40." And if we're on like the brim of the Olympic stage and we're like right there, maybe I'll go to 41. But we'll see when that time comes. But um I just think somebody at the gym asked me, how long are you doing this? Like, what will you do when you're done? You should go be a fitness model. And I was like, do you realize I'm 35 years old? Like, I can't go be a fitness model. And so I was like, it's not like I'm still gonna do the lifestyle. I'm still gonna work out because I enjoy working out. It's just at some point I'm not gonna be on stage anymore.
What would you say is probably the number one thing about just like the average lifestyle that you miss most when you're bodybuilding?
Just being able to say my husband to ask me, "Hey, you want to go for a drink?" Or you want to go get some sushi or oysters? Like, because I can't. Like, it's sad that my husband's like, "Let's go do this weekend," and I'm like, I can't. I got to work out. There's not a gym there.
No, yeah, I mean, that is why I love having bodybuilders on because there's so much more of this lifestyle than just the working out and the posing on stage where it's, yeah, you really have to sacrifice, so much in your life. But do you think that this has made you just a stronger person mentally too, is more than physically, just because of, like you said, if you have to live this lifestyle, I mean, it takes a certain type of person to do it. Where that's why not everyone's a bodybuilder, because it's just the taxing part of the mental side of it is just so much for so many people. But do you think that this has overall made you just more of a stronger person, just mentally as well?
Absolutely. There's times where I'm like, if I can, like, I'll say to myself, if I can do what I've done, put myself through these preps and got, depleted and like just felt like pure poo, like I can do whatever. Like I can do anything. I'm Superwoman, and so I was at the ball field last night. My son had practice from 7 to 9, and it was cold. It was 44 degrees. It was cold though. The wind was blowing. And I had my meal, and she said, "Gosh, you have so much dedication." And I was like, "It's not hard for me though." And she was like, "How do you have such willpower?" And I told her, I was like, "I just choose it." Like, if we do go out to eat, like I have tried to say, like, if my husband wants to go to dinner or lunch, I know what to choose. I can choose fish and ask them not to cook it in oil or whatever. But, like, that's what I try to she's like, "Well, every time we go, I always want a Coke. I want a Coke so bad." I was like, "So get a Diet Coke." I'm like, "There's just you choose what you're choosing what to put in your body."
So you mentioned 44 degrees at the ball field. So literally living up here in Minnesota and being a high school baseball player, I normally play games around that weather, even in May. So, and I can show you it right now, but when you're in this cold weather, you get the callus stuff on your fingers where it gets all crusty and all that stuff. So there'd be times where I was pitching and my hands would just start to bleed because the skin would just be, so then there'd be blood on the ball and then we'd have to pause the game and stuff like that and get it washed off. So yeah, and there's a school, so Duluth, Minnesota, it's 2 hours north of me.
I've been there.
Yeah. Did you go there during the winter or the summer?
I was like 13, and it was during the summer.
Okay. Yeah. So their college team hasn't played a home game in 25 years because it's too cold there during the summer for them to even play games there. So I think like 2 years ago it was like their first time ever that they played like actual home games, and no, it was like see, I get these years mixed up. It was like 4 or 5 years because my older brother was still playing at Mankato, and they went up and they played them. But yeah, that was the first time that they played home games. So yeah, it's a little bit different here. So when I did see your Instagram story of being at your son's thing and at 44 degrees, and I was like, wait, they're playing baseball down there already in February? That's something that we would never do. I mean, April if we're lucky, So yeah, but that's awesome. But again, Mandy, thank you so much for coming on and giving us an update on what you've been up to. I mean, I honestly think you're going to do great. I see that you've improved vastly since we last had you on, and I look forward to seeing how you do this year. And I look forward to talking to you next year. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great.
Again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson. Well, again, I should say before I do my intro, yeah, I'll leave a link to her Instagram and everything like that. Everyone, beware. You're gonna want to get in shape. But again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot. Every single time they're just, oh my god, I gotta get off the couch now. But Ryan Johnson signing off. Have a great day, everyone.